if you just take the first bid you get, or do what everyone does or what's easy, you can waste a lot of money. But if you, hold to your vision, get creative to say, hey, how can I maximize this money and maximize the guest experience, then I think, you can do really impressive things.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Radical Hospitality Podcast. I'm your host, Zeke Freeman. I'm super excited today on the Radical Hospitality Podcast. I'm sitting down with Tori Bolt, co-founder of Bolt Farm Treehouse, one of the most recognized names in the experience outdoor hospitality. You might know Bolt Farm from their Instagram feed, from a friend who wouldn't stop talking about it, or maybe you've been lucky enough to stay there yourself. Tori has been the center of building something that goes well beyond a place to sleep, a brand that people keep discovering and I keep hearing about in all the different circles that I'm involved in. Today, we're pulling back the curtains on the show, and we're going to talk about what she's built, how she runs it, and what she's learned just creating this amazing space. So, Tori, welcome to the show.
Thank you. What an intro and an honor to be here. I'm really excited for our chat today.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited. Currently wearing my Need to Breathe sweatshirt. And so my funny story behind this, I invited my wife a few years ago to go to a Need to Breathe concert. I was super excited about it. I was like, I love this band. And, she didn't answer me. And a few weeks later, she said, hey, Zeke, I'm going to go to this concert with a few girlfriends. And I was like, the concert that I invited you to? Oh, you did? Yeah. And so I always joke, I got the t-shirt. She got to see the concert. So,
no. Have you seen them live or was it?
So I have yet to see you guys live. And so one of my backdoor reasons for inviting you on is I really hope that you'll come next time you guys are at Red Rocks and come see us at the Red Hotel and stay with us.
This is so cool.
Super honored to have you on, Tori.
Absolutely. Well, gosh, Red Rocks, Seth always gets asked, what's your favorite venue to play at? And it's always Red Rocks. I mean, there's nothing like it. It's so incredible. But I'll do you one better. If you're a Need to Breathe fan, you haven't made it to a show yet. So Seth, actually, I don't know if you knew this, he retired from the road last year, 23 years with Need to Breathe. Wow. And now that we're growing our family and really focused on our business, he wanted to be home, but he still loves playing music. And so we just started doing a handful of these really intimate, stripped down acoustic. I can't even call it a concert because it's so much more than that. But basically, he's playing the best of Need to Breathe songs and telling the stories behind the songs with like a very intimate group at Bolt Farm. We do it on the rooftop deck of our wellness haven. So like you're sitting above the world, listening to Need to Breathe with like a handful of people, and it is so special. So we got to get you and your wife out here. Maybe, I was going to say you should come alone and just get her a t-shirt, but she needs to experience it too.
Maybe I'll show up and give her the t-shirt and then surprise
there you
her
go.
At Bolt Farm. Oh, that would be amazing. The way that you guys are pulling this into the work that you're doing, I think is a really cool just way to connect. Personally, I haven't seen anybody else out here in the space doing that with their projects. So for those people who don't know, and there's probably a very small group that don't know Need to Breathe and kind of the backstory and how, you and Seth, went from this rock concert band that's just an amazing group to doing hospitality stays. Can you give us just a little backstory of you and Seth and how all that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Like this was not in our master plan. It kind of just naturally happened. And it's all tied around our love story, which is just so cool because it's such a big part of what we do and who we serve. Like we are built for couples to help them strengthen their relationships. I was working in news. Seth has been part of the band Need to Breathe for the last 23 years. He just retired last year. But he had been playing music. And even though he grew up in the countryside of South Carolina in nature, and his dad has a construction business, so he grew up around all that. He ended up spending a lot of his time in cities, touring with the band and just feeling like longing to get back to nature. That's when he felt like his spirit would lift and all these things. So it takes 2 years for him to convince his dad that they should build a treehouse together by hand so that Seth can have a respite. And then maybe they would put it on Airbnb, this brand new platform. Okay, these conversations are happening around 2013. And they start to do it. So they're building the treehouse together. He meets me in the process and says, instead of just building a backyard treehouse, I want to make this a luxurious, romantic treehouse worthy of my wedding day. And I'm going to see if I can convince my new bride who grew up in Southern California to not honeymoon overseas, but to honeymoon on my parents' farm in this treehouse. So it's got to be a great treehouse. And so he really went over the top in every single way, making it just that. So beautiful, romantic, one of a kind. We had our wedding there, our honeymoon there. And on our honeymoon, we firsthand experienced the power of an environment that is set up, designed with intentionality. We put our phones down, just started dreaming and praying and journaling about what we wanted our life to look like, because we're newlyweds and we had crazy schedules. We knew it wasn't sustainable. Like, what problem could we commit the next 20 years of our life or the rest of our life solving, And everything kept pointing to this, creating more tree houses like this so that more couples could experience that power of the reconnection. And that's what we did. Like a few months after our honeymoon, I quit my job. We sold our house, we bought some land in Charleston, and went all in on this dream and haven't looked back since. And it's crazy. It really has not been a smooth road the entire time. I mean, what you see on Instagram truly is the highlight reel. We built an entire property in Charleston that ended up failing. We can get into that if you'd like. And then literally did a restart. So everything you see online now is built in Tennessee. But I mean, we've been at this for a decade plus now. That's how it started.
Wow. So maybe let's go ahead and start there. So you guys built this amazing first tree house on the family property, and then you guys bought the second property. I don't think there's anybody who has gone through this that hasn't like hit some walls or some hardships. And I think that's, really truly like, it's the overcoming of some of this that makes us who we are. So maybe walk us through that a little bit with the second property and what that was like, what the process was and what you guys went through.
We learned so much through that. That was a really, really painful process, but I'm grateful for it because we learned a lot. Now it's part of our testimony and we can help other people trying to do something, meaningful and similar, avoid those potholes that we stepped in. The TLDR is to always get your entitlements that cover you now and in the future to do what you want to do. Because at the time, we're just young kids, new entrepreneurs trying to create some tree houses, and we didn't consider ourselves developers. We were just focused on building our tree houses. We had this land on Wadmalaw Island outside of Charleston, and there wasn't zoning. So we just did our thing and got to work. But we didn't have our finger on the pulse of the political conversation or, what was happening behind closed doors. And they were actually talking through adopting these short-term rentals, which then they adopted right as we were finishing construction. So unfortunately, even though we laid everything on the line and committed everything, like living in a camper off the grid to build these things, we have no outside investors. Instead of getting to run our business, we had to now fight for it and try to get our property rezoned, which the community hated. They were like very anti-development. And so they did everything they could to run us out of town, basically. And it's crazy to just be able to pare it down to one step like that, because in reality, it was like 9 months of hell, absolute hell. But, we were fighting for it. And then we realized we're like, we could spend years of our lives just fighting for this. Like, we so deeply believe in what we built and created and that there's a need for it. And I think as painful as it is, we just did it in the wrong place. So we literally just started over.
Wow.
We started over. When I say get your
sell that property to start over.
We were, but it took a long time because now we have this property that has no commercial value, really. You can't rent it out. So it was really hard to find a buyer. So we actually ended up selling it after we had found our new property in Tennessee. So like things don't always just fall in a straight line. And I think part of being an entrepreneur, you have to be comfortable with, not following a straight path, with betting on yourself when it doesn't all make sense. And the entitlements thing, I mean, that's kind of like the boring, unsexy zoning stuff, but it is everything. Like where you plant your flag, where you build your hotel or whatever you're building, that is so expensive. It's really hard to pick up and move, right? So like you need to make sure that you are covered and able to do what you want to do both now and in the future, and that no angry neighbor can take that away from you. We learned that lesson the hard way.
And I'll say that's my world. We live in entitlements and architecture every single day. And the reason we're doing a hoteling now is we went through similar stories as you guys. We built a tree house that we purchased a piece of land, did a really cool, kind of elevated tree house. And we had met with the city, told them what we wanted to do, went through the regulations that they had posted for short-term rentals. And we met all of those, spent a year designing, building, spent 400 grand, on this treehouse, got it up to go get, and then went to go pull our license. And they said, oh, well, there's another set of rules that aren't published that you have to go through a board of adjustment. And these rules, you're missing some things on this, but don't worry, we're going to be changing that. And you'll be able to get your license, in a few months. 3 years later, they finally got these rules and regulations after multiple, city meetings and public meetings. And we, have just got our license after 3 years. And with the rest of Jefferson County, realized like no one had a license and we just kind of operated in the gray. But after putting all of that in, the thing of how easy these rules and regulations could, easily put you out of business of doing something that you're really passionate and heartfelt about to suddenly, you find yourself, in a area that's changing rules, changing regulations, or unwanted. So, and so we started down the hotel route, thinking we would get, at least set regulations, and there were some benefits about that. There's also, we struggled with, the whole permitting on that as well, but we'll save that for another story. But back to, so I definitely feel, and appreciate the importance of finding good regulations and rules. Once you guys move through that, how did you then take your lessons from that and start on your second project?
Yeah, I mean, it really starts with where you plant your flag. And so we get asked all the time, why Tennessee? And Tennessee is so beautiful. My family lives here. There's a lot of personal reasons why we wanted to be here, but also it's incredibly business friendly. Where we are, it's a rural community. They were really wanting, they welcomed us with open arms, wanting businesses to pour into the economy. And so they were grateful. They were easy to work with. They said, let's use common sense. There wasn't a lot of red tape. And I mean, I don't want to be controversial here or anything. I grew up in Southern California, right? But we get asked too, are you guys going to build a location in California? A Bolt Farm in Napa would be incredible. And it would be, but there's so much red tape. And it's like, do you want to spend years of your life working through permitting, or do you want to just be able to get to work? So I'll tell you this is just a crazy example. In around the holidays, November 2020, we had someone that we knew, an acquaintance, mutual friend, who was doing a property in Joshua Tree. And they did this Indiegogo campaign. Nothing was built yet. All these renderings, they crushed their campaign. And they actually gave us some inspiration on how to approach our campaign, our pre-launch. We both pre-launched at the same time. Within 6 months, we're open and operating. And 2 years later, they still weren't. I'm just like, whoa, where you build matters. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, so we did our research there, got to work, built like crazy fast speed. And within 6 months, we were open. That was now basically 5 years ago. And we basically have kept building since. We've been able to expand from 18 acres to now 55. We started with 10 villas, and now we have 33. So
that's incredibly fast. Even take out the permitting things.
Yeah.
Talk about the designs that you guys ended up doing on this new property and what kind of construction looked like to get a project through in 6 months. That's crazy.
It is. Yeah. So Seth is our chief designer. He designed everything. He drew the drawing for the first treehouse literally on a napkin. And then obviously we've gotten more sophisticated since. But he designed everything, and we are obsessed with efficiency. Everything we do, how can we do it better? How can we do it faster? Because time is money. Every day that you're not open yet, you're not generating revenue, you're paying this loan and there's interest. So our process has really evolved over the last 5 years. And we started out doing everything stick built. And that is painful for anyone who has listened or who has lived that. Wrangling contractors, dealing with weather, all the things. And there's a lot of waste. Now we actually manufacture our tree houses in a factory off property. It's our designs, but they come in almost like Legos in 2 pieces, completely done with the floors installed, the cabinets painted. All we have to do is connect to plumbing and electric and the last, step of tie-ins, and you're golden. So it's come a long way, and it's been a process to get to here, but it's really exciting because now we have speed on our side.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you guys are doing offsite prefab, but you're doing your own designs. A lot of times I find, there's a lot of efficiency in offsite prefab, but a lot of those companies won't, allow you to customize. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
brand is, I mean, that's kind of your moat. And
Yep.
there's a lot of beautiful prefabs out there, but if everybody's doing them, then, suddenly you kind of
Anyone can buy
lose,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Anybody can buy it, right? And it's not your unique thing. How did you guys develop that relationship, and what's that look like to get a customized offsite construction?
Yeah. So instead of finding a prefab company and modifying it to our specs, we just took our plans and found a factory basically where they have the
Okay.
space, they build their own prefabs, but they were willing to give us space to use ours. And so it's structured a little bit differently. And like you mentioned, I think this is like, it's the ultimate path because like you said, if you just are buying something off the shelf, you don't have that moat. So, and I'll just put it out there. Like we work with Wind River Built. They're incredible.
Hmm.
Why them? They have really good quality, but they're also close to us, right? Because the further you are, you have to worry about now transporting it and all the different like regulations per state there. But yeah, finding a place where they can build your designs in their warehouse, it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah. And then site wise, what are you guys doing for infrastructure to connect cabins up and your glamping domes?
Yeah, infrastructure is such a beast. And it's like, wow, you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and have basically nothing to show for it, because no one's like really, except for developers, right? You're like, oh, that's a nice road. That's an expensive road. But we're on top of a mountain. So we have septic, thankfully we actually were able to tie into city water, but we had to run all of our other utilities. I mean, we had to take out crazy machinery, like with is it like a rock saw, right? Where it like digs into the earth. It was really complicated, but worth it, well worth it to do it right. I think infrastructure is something that, again, you don't have anything to show for it on Instagram, but it's so important, and I'll talk to hosts who are like, hey, infrastructure is going to be complicated or expensive. What do we think about doing compost toilets or something like this? This is just my take. I don't want to like make anyone feel bad. If you have your brand and that works for you, that's great. But if if you're thinking about it purely from a business aspect, like the higher you can sell your nights, your ADR, average daily rate, the better, right? That's the fastest lever you can pull instead of building more and stuff like that. And if you don't have indoor plumbing, like that gives you a low ceiling. You know what I mean? These travelers who are willing to do that are not trying to, spend $500 or more a night. So think about that. In my opinion, it's a well worth investment because yes, it was such a pain to have to get all that just right. But now we get to say, oh yeah, well, we have, you know, heated bidets in every treehouse, and our treehouses sell for $1,000 a night. Like, is it worth it? Yes, absolutely. So think long term, big picture, and who's your ideal customer, and what amenities are they going to want versus be okay with not having.
When you guys started this and you mentioned, you guys kind of came out of, hey, this was our perfect wedding, not event, but honeymoon, I guess, stay. Have you guys continued that to focus through, or is that your still your avatar, or who do you guys tend to host to mainly?
Yeah, our core avatar is couples. It's
Mm-hmm.
couples. It's not necessarily people on their honeymoon, but people who want to feel like they're on their honeymoon again, you
Yeah.
know? And we do host a lot of special milestones like honeymoons and anniversaries and birthdays and even proposals. But what we found is that we've become people's go-to place just for their relationship reset, whether that's annually, quarterly, or something in between, where they're just like, this is the place where we can just really be present with each other and not just coexisting roommates, running a household, managing kids, jobs, and all the things. It's funny, there was a short season when we first opened in Tennessee that we made the mistake of trying to be all things to all people. We were kid friendly, we were pet friendly, and it was a disaster. And then it's absolutely fine to, if you want to host families or animals, that's great. But it wasn't us. It wasn't our core customer. And it was really confusing to be talking about private, quiet, romantic honeymoons and then be like, and bringing the family and the kids. It's like the more niche and specific you can get, the more clearly you can connect with your ideal avatar.
And so, what are some of the ways that you guys help create those experiences? You mentioned in the beginning, you guys are doing these music nights, which sounds incredible. Yeah, what else do you guys do?
Yeah. Our goal is to be able to take care of everything so that all you have to do is show up and you don't have to worry about logistics and planning, and give our type A people a little break from that. So we recommend our all-inclusive stay. It's like the best of Bolt Farm, where they can show up, they can enjoy 1 or 2 days of spa experiences. And even that, it's truly a spa experience. It's not just a massage that you're getting in a small dark room. It's like this whole day curated around couples and helping you connect, from what you do before and after your treatment too. So like, that's probably the highlight. Like, it's definitely the thing to do, but we also have hiking and some food options. It's something like life simple pleasures. Even like, we have a pizza experience where you're kneading the dough and you're making pizza, but you're like laughing and playing like kids again, and just helping people slow down and really connect with the person they're there with.
What does that take to host that? Are you curating that, or do you guys have staff that's doing those experiences?
Yeah, we have an incredible team. Like, none of this, what we do today, would be possible without our team. And so, yeah, we've created it. I mean, we've designed everything with scale and systems in mind so that we can create something once, ideally, and then it's very largely self-guided. But that said, we have a whole team of dream weavers. If you've read Unreasonable Hospitality, a team dedicated to wowing our guests and making them, all these like little personalized surprises. But we do that. A lot of it, most of the time it's a couple coming for, anywhere from 2 to 4 nights for like a little self-guided getaway. But we are now doing more and more like organized retreats, whether we're doing like a marriage retreat or, something for business executives where it's a little bit more structured.
Yeah. And in terms of the health and the wellness, the spa, I'm looking on your site. I mean, you guys have these like really beautiful cascading pools. Did you guys build all of those in? Or they look like they're rock formations?
Yeah, that was an incredible project that Seth spearheaded. And my goodness, the before and after, like, this was an overgrown, underutilized part of the property. And now it's the crown jewel of it all. And it's a mixture. What you're seeing is a mixture of what naturally existed and then what we brought in. We worked with an incredible company who did like movie sets for Disney and these theme parks where they make the stone look really, really natural. So we like the pools we brought in. But yeah, that's the wellness haven. And I'll tell you this is crazy. I don't know how much your audience likes digging into the numbers side of things and business, but I kind of geek out there.
Love it.
So we knew we wanted to do something special there at the Wellness Haven. And first, Seth was dreaming up an infinity pool. And it was going to be a pool on the side of the cliff where everyone can go. And we got a quote for it. And it was going to cost $2 million to do this one pool. Okay. And we come from very humble backgrounds, no money. And we're like, that's not a great use.
Ridiculous.
Like $2 million on a pool. Like, that's a lot of money. That's crazy. We can do better than that. So instead we got creative and came up with the entire Wellness Haven concept with multiple pools, hot springs, cold plunge, sauna, steam room, all for $500,000 less than one pool. So we ended up doing that for like 1.5. And it's just cool to see, if you just take the first bid you get, or do what everyone does or what's easy, you can waste a lot of money. But if you, hold to your vision, get creative to say, hey, how can I maximize this money and maximize the guest experience? If you're willing to like go through that process and really like leg it out instead of just getting the quick closed loop, then I think, you can do really impressive things.
The hot springs that are here, are you guys using geothermal to heat that? Or is that just, are you guys just running propane and heating pools going down?
We're running propane. There's propane. Yeah. All that. Like, we had to drill into the rock and jackhammer to lie our infrastructure, and you don't see anything. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of hot springs, are naturally heated. And so to create those in a new space, we're looking at a project like this in Estes right now. And I'm very curious. It's good to hear some numbers on what this really takes. So you guys put in, is it like 4 pools, cascading pools in it? And
yep. There's a total of 4. Yep. One of those is a cold plunge, and then one of them is a hot tub, and then the other 2 can alternate based on what time of year it is. Yeah.
And then do you guys do treatment rooms as well as part of this? Okay.
Yeah, we have 3 treatment rooms. We're building a 4th right now. Each one is designed for couples. So everything we do, it's a couple spa. And
Yeah.
it's so funny. I love watching the transformation for the men because a lot of them come into this with their wife being so excited to do the spa days, and he's like, "I'm not a spa guy. I'm gonna just sit out, right?" And we're like, "Oh no, like you have to. Like it's a couple. It's all or nothing." And she's like, "We're doing this." And then he leaves a spa guy because it's just like such a great experience.
And did you guys build out the tree houses and the stays first and then add this, or was this all one part of a centralized project to build it together?
The spa and the Haven, they came later. It was
Okay.
always part of the vision, and
Yeah.
that's my encouragement to people because I'll talk to a lot of hosts. There's people in our mastermind who are, maybe they have 3 units and they're like, I want an amenity. I want to build a spa. And I'm like, think about it. Think about the cost versus like the demand. You only have 3 units. Does that really make sense? And so think long, dream big, and then do it in phases if you have that luxury. And so we actually didn't build the Haven until Q1 of 2025. And we had maybe, I think at least it was like 18 villas at the time, because that's what it needed to be able to really,
Support it.
monetize that and support it. Mm-hmm.
How many total units do you guys have at the farm now?
Now we're at 33.
33. Like what do you recommend kind of scale wise to start including some of these amenities before it makes sense? Like what numbers do you look at to say, here's the investments that would actually add to a smaller micro resort versus, hey, we could do this on a bigger micro resort?
Yeah, I mean, great question, because for us, like we limit the amenities just to our guests. We're not open to the public. It really simplifies things, it protects everyone's privacy. I mean, there's no magic number. I think it will change business to business, but you look at what is the cost of creating this amenity versus, what can I turn that into? Am I charging separately for this? Is it allowing me to raise my rates? And if I have only 5 rentals, can I keep this amenity full? Or does it not make sense until I have 10? So it's just really a numbers thing. And I find a lot of people in the space, we get into it because we're creatives, we're dreamers, but you do have to balance that with like that very analytical, operational numbers side of things to really make sure it makes sound business sense.
Yeah. What do you think are some of the amenities right now that are really helpful for short-term rentals and micro resorts?
Yeah. I mean, I think even like a sauna, and I know they're becoming very popular, but when you find one that is aesthetically pleasing and it's just a great, very low maintenance, I'm always looking for low maintenance, self-guided amenities. And also, like, I talk about it being aesthetically pleasing because Instagram is our number one customer acquisition channel. People are looking on Instagram, they're falling in love with this idea of this dreamy vacation. They see a picture and they're like, yes, I want that. And I've seen some really well done where the sauna, it's like a whole oasis. So that's probably one of my quick wins. I would say beware of food and bev. Like it's kind of a necessary evil just because it can be so complicated. And I've heard people joke and say, restaurants are typically the L on the P&L. Like it's just a big loss leader. So for us, we don't have a fancy restaurant. We've met the need by providing food. We have some ideas that we're working through for creative experiences, but again, just trying to keep the main thing and not get distracted. You're not going to, if you're an owner and operator, you're not going to get rich off mugs or t-shirts or even, whatever these like little things are. The point of the other things are to enhance the guest experience. But I see people getting distracted when really they should just focus on filling their rooms.
Yeah. Is there amenities that you think actually do add to the bottom line, or is it really, hey, amenities are all about, creating a main thing experience?
Yeah. I mean, for us, I can only speak from experience, but the spa is a huge driver because the margins are so much bigger than even the stay, right? It costs a lot to run a hotel business and have the team. So our margins are pretty, slim for the stay, but then for the spa, it's much greater. So that's a huge one. Like when you get to a volume that makes sense, I think having spa treatments, I mean, for us, that's adding minimum $1,000 per stay.
Some amenities that if you at least have the scale to support them,
Yeah.
those can really add to bottom line experiences. You mentioned Instagram a couple of times, and I also want to take it a little step back before you guys even launched this thing. You mentioned using a launch program or software to help raise capital for this. What did you guys use? What did that capital raise phase look like? How did that work out for you guys?
It worked out very well.
And what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll walk you through it. This is how well it worked out. It was kind of a wild story, and I do not recommend that you do this. We were just in a really tough situation. We had to. We did a pre-sale event in 2020 before building anything, before owning the land. We were under contract for the land. And we did $1 million in pre-sales in about 3 weeks. Just insane. And, there's a million ways you could go about it. We went about it in a very simple, scrappy way because, we've seen people who have done the campaigns with Indiegogo, and you have, all these kind of investors and all this that you have to fulfill on, and it can just get complicated. So we just did a very simple, straightforward pre-sale event where it was through our website, and we're like just selling reservations in advance. Now, we made the mistake of actually tying it to a date because that made construction really, really stressful. So if I could go back, I would just be selling reservation certificates, right? Where you're like locking in these rates, you're holding your spot, building intent. But yeah, we didn't use a third party, platform like Indiegogo or anything like that. We just did it ourselves. We were just talking to our list, posting on Instagram like crazy, building up hype, and creating everything for a while drove to this email list, right? Be the first to stay. Then we're warming up intent. That's actually when we launched our Facebook group as well. And at the time, there were just, a few hundred people in it. Now there's 30,000. But like, you're building this intent, and now you have this hot audience who's so ready. And when you are ready to open your doors, and launch, then we had that kind of response. So that's how we did it. But you could certainly hire companies to run the whole, pre-launch for you.
I mean, that's really powerful for an email list, essentially. Did you guys have that before you started in on Bolt? Was that transferring over from Need to Breathe or some other places, or did you guys build that up kind of around the hospitality?
Yeah, I mean, we built it all ourselves. Now, it did start, 5 years prior with the treehouse in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And that whole journey, we were still building customers, building trust, in staying in contact with them, even though for a long time we had nothing to sell. So there was a lot of pent up demand.
So what do you guys do to help build your email list and communicate? What does that look like?
Yeah, people need to give that a lot of attention because that's your top of funnel. That's how you're constantly getting new customers. And for us, we do 100% direct bookings. So we don't rely on the OTAs. So growing that list is really important. For us, it pretty much starts on social, right? We have big presence with organic. A couple of years ago, we started leaning into paid with Meta. And so we're constantly, getting new eyeballs. We also have an influencer strategy where, we're collaborating with them probably on a weekly basis and exposing ourselves to new audiences. Then they come to our site and, they can opt into we collect their contact info, and we'll have different promos we run, to incentivize that. And on average, we're growing about maybe 1,000 new signups a week. And then, from there, they just get into your funnel. So for people who are thinking, okay, Instagram, social media is scary, or I don't have time for it, you don't have time not to do it. You need to either learn it or find someone who you can hire to do it, because that's how you're going to connect with the best customers. If you're just relying on people finding you on Airbnb or VRBO, something like that, usually, they're already having dates and a place in mind, and they're looking for the best price. And so you're going to have that pressure versus someone who sees you on Instagram and they fall in love with the experience that you're presenting. And then they're like, and we get people all the time. They're like, I don't even know where this is or how much it costs, but I have to be here. I have to experience this. And that's what you want.
Yeah. So maybe coach me a little bit, because I'm probably similar to a lot of other entrepreneurs that are launching their projects. We have an Instagram. We've got the Red Hotel that's getting up and ready, but we're not professionals at this by any means. Small following. Everything I hear is like, hey, you really need to be able to focus on building out the direct bookings. If we want to work with influencers or a PR company, or what should this look like as we're, us specifically, which relate to other people, heading towards opening this summer? What would you recommend us do to grow an audience that's going to help set up for direct bookings as we get to launch here in 4 months?
Yeah. Wow. That's so exciting. I can't wait to see how everything goes for you guys. I would be leaning very heavily into the influencer game. Okay. Telling them that you're launching this summer. You want to be the first to stay. We want to roll out the red carpet for you.
Or is there companies that correlate those influencers, or how do you do that?
Yeah. How do you do that? I know. So again, I'll just speak from experience. Yes, there are companies who can do it for you, but like we didn't do that. We didn't have the money to do that.
Okay.
And it tends to be a little like slower and more official. So it was just me. I would follow people, like just think about how you would normally make a new friend or interact with someone. You wouldn't call a stranger out of the blue, right? So you find some influencers who are in your area. They don't have to have millions of followers, but are they the best and most aligned in your area? I'd be looking for, anyone in the Denver greater area, or maybe it's all of Colorado, right? And it can be a micro influencer, even if they have 20,000 followers, but if they're followers that care about travel and experiences, that's what you're looking for.
Okay.
I'd honestly be using leveraging AI to find that list of influencers I should go after. Then I would literally just follow them. Then I would start to like and comment on their photos in a friendly, normal way. Then I would DM them with the invitation. And a lot of them will also list an email. And so I'll hit them from both angles. I'll be like, I'll send a DM saying, hey, I just emailed you. Cause some intrigue. Send them the email. Drop in your boomerang attachment so you can see if they actually opened your email. Because so many people just don't read email, but invite them. And then once you get one to say yes, you leverage that. Who are they following? Who are their influencer friends? And just ask them. So excited to host you. Is there anyone else you know who we should work with? And now they look cool for securing this. And just a ripple effect. I mean, I mentioned now we host one a week. You don't have to do that depending on your scale, but I think when you're launching, like, yes, you want to hit that really hard, and you could even drum up more hype with a giveaway, where you let this influencer give away a stay to their audience. And now you're exposed to their entire audience.
Okay. And so is the invite, to just have a free stay, or do you end up needing to usually pay? What's kind of the value offer with that most influencers are looking for?
It does depend. It absolutely depends. I can tell you that we've never paid influencers. It's always just a trade basis. I think when you have something that's really cool, and the bigger that you're building your brand, the more they're just going to want to come and visit. And I promise I'll deliver on this answer, but I got to tell you this short story because it happened today, and I'm really pumped about it. But we hosted this celebrity couple at Bolt Farm a couple years ago. And it started with just being friendly online. We did a giveaway together before they even visited. And then it went really well and they came and stayed and had a great time. And we stayed a little bit in contact. And then I just found out, because I was looking at our spa calendar, that I'm like, wait a minute, they're getting a spa treatment this weekend? Like, they liked it so much that they just booked. They didn't even like reach out for a deal. They were just like, I love this place. And they just booked themselves and then like let me know after. And I was pretty excited. But yeah, I think, if you're finding the right people, and especially if they are these up and comers, you don't have to pay. Just roll out the red carpet for them. But also I'll tell hosts, like, don't be stingy either. Don't be like, hey, it's a one night stay and no freebies. Like, think about this. Like, the more that you give them to experience, the more they're going to highlight and show off. So when I'm hosting an influencer, we're like, yes, let's include spa, food. I want them to have and enjoy all the things, because then they can speak about that from experience.
Yeah. Yeah. What else are you guys doing just for your guest experience, so that when they're coming through, they're also coming out on the back end as a super fan, basically, to help continue that growth engine?
It's something we obsess over. Actually, as we speak, we have two of our leaders. We sent them to Will Guidara's Unreasonable Hospitality Summit. That book is an absolute must if you're in this space. And we're investing in our people to get better, and to learn new things. But our goal is to wow each guest 5 times during their stay. The hello, the goodbye, and 3 times in between. I mean, we're talking sometimes even on a 2-night stay.
Yeah.
So I think when you can show them an experience of a lifetime and say, like, you matter, you're not just part of this engine or system, like, that's how you create guests for life. And great reviews are one thing, but what I'm really proud of now is our rebooking rate. So we have 25 to 30% of our guests are booking their next stay before they even leave property. And so to me, nothing says we had a great stay more than that. They're actually putting their money where their mouth is. And for years, we were capturing, the verbal intent and all these kind things, but we couldn't really measure, and we didn't know it was happening. So that'd be my advice to someone who's getting ready to launch is right now, today, create your rebooking offer. What is that going to be, so that you can create a guest for life and it doesn't just end with their first day? Because once they leave your property, they're back in the busy world. Good luck getting them back, right? So you have to capture that while they're there.
It sounds like you're really leading a hospitality team now, and kind of probably moving out of just doing all day to day to create this kind of spirit of radical hospitality, unreasonable hospitality, where they're coming and greeting people by name, or creating these amazing guest experiences. What are some of the systems that you're putting in place for your team, and then what does your team look like?
Great questions. I could talk about this all day. I'm so grateful for my team. It's our biggest investment. We're now a team of 60 plus, which is
Wow.
kind of crazy. Yeah, but it's part-time and full-time and contractors. So we have about 38 full-time employees. And it is wild because it started with just Seth and myself, to see what it's grown to. But we have a world-class team, a strong recruiting engine. It's about, getting top talent and then retaining them. And I think our employee proposition is that, yes, this is going to require a lot and stretch you, but you're going to grow more here than anywhere else. And we invest so heavily in our team. Earlier today, we just had our book club. We're reading through book club. We do a bi-weekly all-team training where we're teaching them things that will not only help them with their work and deliver on that guest experience, but also outside in their personal life too. And so I just can't stress on that enough. Like, investing in good people, we're always looking for top talent. We're building a championship level team. And that's everything. You could build a multi-million-dollar place, but if your team sucks, your guests are good, that's going to be the impression they walk away with, So there's riches in training. We do that heavily. And yeah, what does our team look like? So we have our hospitality team who's, all on site. We have our hosts who are greeting our guests. We have a guest experience comms team who's being able to communicate 24/7. They're remote. We have housekeeping and maintenance. We have a spa team, leaders for every department. Something that we have that I'm realizing not that many people do is a phone as a sales team. It's a remote sales team because some people will not book, $1,000 trip online with a few clicks. They want to talk to someone and make sure it's real. And so we have a team who can do that, and they're learning about them, they're customizing their stay. And then, the power is in the data. So anything that they're learning on that call, oh, Zeke loves Need to Breathe, right? We keep those notes in their guest profile so then the on-site team can deliver on that and maybe have a Need to Breathe vinyl playing for you in your villa when you walk in. These little touches where they feel like, wow, like I feel so known and I feel really seen.
Yeah. So we're kind of sitting on both ends of the spectrum. We have our little tree house that we're self-managing. We had a manager do that. We took that over this year. So we're just kind of learning this short-term rental management. And then we're on the other end where we're building the hotel, and we've hired a professional management company because we really feel like we want to start well. It sounds like you probably are managing this project yourself, right? There's not a management company. So
no,
what did that
it's all in-house. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you guys moved from the one up to a micro resort basically, and built the team. How did you know what to build? How did you learn that? And what do those steps look like as you're bringing in, people to build out a full team of what it is now?
Yeah. In the early days, we were learning things the hard way. Everything was self-taught, figure it out yourself. Now we invest heavily in our mentorship, and our growth so that we're constantly learning from the best, and we can apply that to our team and the people that we coach and lead. But yeah, I mean, we've run teams, when we had one treehouse, 4, 10, 18, 25, 30, and it does look different at each stage. I think, it's like a lot of people tie a big team to ego, and it's like a flex, like, oh, my team's this big, and like, don't do that. It's so the opposite, because it just means that you have a very hefty payroll bill. Like, if you can be lean, mean, and scrappy, that's fantastic, and you really should only hire based on the constraint. So something we'll teach our mastermind group is, you build your business around your strengths, you build your team around your weaknesses. So whatever you're really good at, that's what you should be doing. And that might look different in different seasons, right? So then you're going to hire a team for your weaknesses. Find people who can do that so that there's no gaps, And so for us, the early days of our team looked like one dedicated cleaner and one person managing guest communication, because I didn't want to be at dinner with my phone going off, and that person kept us full. And then it was like, okay, where's the pain point? What do the guests need? Where are we not delivering? Okay, let's hire for that. Let's hire for that. And you just keep doing it one step at a time. We now have a phone sales team of 5 people, but that's pretty new. It started with one person, and it was one person for a long time until we realized, wow, look at the data. we're missing 30% of calls. Let's grow the team. So you just have to, it can't be feeling based. It has to be data based, and always hire based on your constraint.
Yeah. And so it sounds like you've had some mentors. You mentioned Will Guidera, one, and then now you guys are doing some mentoring. I'd love to hear a little bit more
Yeah.
on who were some of your key mentors, and what does your mentor program look like?
Yeah. So we have mentors for different facets of our life. Will Guidera is incredible. We've been part of, John Maxwell's community for on the faith and leadership side. We were in a mastermind actually led by Sharon Srivatsa, who is now acquisition.com's CEO and president.
Yeah.
And we were in this like tiny little scrappy mastermind with him. It's just so cool. We've worked with the Hermosis, have given them way too much money. Yeah, but it's always so worth it. The return on mentorship never ends. It's like, you can get one idea or breakthrough that just changes the game. So we're constantly investing in ourselves. And then, in 2024, we created our mastermind group because there was no one doing it exactly like we do, which is just, it's not this big, fancy, flashy thing. We're just like, hey, how can we help people who are walking this walk, right? They don't have to build tree houses or something exactly like us, but a hospitality business where they really care about building something with purpose. That's excellent. And let's save them the time and pain that we experience ourselves by just showing them the way and laying it all out on the table. So we're very transparent with them. We share our numbers, our playbooks, our resources, anything that can really help them. And it's so cool to see the success stories. We have people in our group who are in the development phase and they're just starting out if they're looking for land. But then we also have some large operators with 30, 50, hundreds of rooms. And just on one of our recent calls, they were doing like a stat share about, their Q1 performance and comparing that to a year ago. And they're like, this one couple 2x'd their occupancy, increased their nightly rates by 80% and doubled their revenue. I'm like, guys, that's incredible. Like it lights me up because it's a hard industry to be in. Like there's easier ways to make money. You're really only doing this if you genuinely love it. And to be able to help people win and avoid the potholes that we fell into, that is very life-giving to us.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
In your mastermind group, what are kind of the qualifications or people that would be good to join what you guys do, and where could they find that?
Yeah. So it's really, centered for owners or, high-level operators, owners and operators. It's you plus one. So whether you work with your spouse or you want to bring in your right hand, but somebody in the hospitality space who is trying to either get something started or grow their existing business, and who realizes that investing in yourself and really trading money for time back, that's going to be someone who's a great fit. In terms of where to learn from it, they can just check out our website or our Instagram. We actually just started doing these free trainings every few weeks. We actually have one coming up in a week here, but a free training where we'll give you kind of our 101 masterclass. And then if it feels like a good fit, there's an invitation to continue on from there.
Cool. Well, we'll make sure to link to that in the show.
I'll send you the link for the training.
Yeah. Perfect. You got so many things going on. What are you most excited about that you're working on now, and what are you excited about that's coming up?
Oh man, there are so many exciting things that are happening right now and that we're dreaming about. I mean, there hasn't been a night in the last month that Seth has gone to bed before midnight because he's just like so amped up. There's a lot, but I think one of the first things that come to mind that on the business side, we're building this beautiful hub where we can have larger events that can support everybody on the property, because we're seeing more and more demand for that. And it's going to just be like a world-class barn gathering space for small weddings and events and stuff like that. So we're in the design phase of that right now. And then also just building our team. This has been it's been a pivotal year for us already. And we're only 4 months in, where I feel the business leveling up, and we're a growth-minded company. Our team knows that. And it's like, grow or get left behind. And we don't want to leave anyone behind, but that requires you growing too. And we've just have brought in some killers. We say we're building a stable of stallions, people who love their work. They're obsessed with hospitality. And, you feel with every new hire, like we just got faster, we just got better. And we have that wind in our sails. And it's really exciting.
Wow. I love couplepreneurs like you and Seth that are just, seem to keep pushing and making each other better. What advice do you have to couplepreneurs out there that are doing this together to do it well, to support each other? Where are the pitfalls
Yeah.
you've ran into to not do it well?
Goodness. That's a whole, I know, right? That's who our heart goes out to. Because it's not for everyone to work with your spouse, but if you do are one of those people, I think it's a great gift. You're sharing goals, you're sharing obstacles, you're so close and just on the same page. You know what the other person's working on. Two things I would share. One is like clearly define your lanes. In the early days, everything was just muddled. He and I would touch everything, and it would get kind of messy and frustrating. So now we have clearly defined lanes. He owns design, construction, I own the branding, marketing, sales. Like there's these clearly defined lanes, and we'll often collaborate and get each other's input, but who gets the final call. Then you don't have to take it personally. And then the other, which I think is even more important, the most important, is to not lose sight of your relationship, because that comes first. You are husband and wife before you are business partners, right? And so you need to be able to make sure that you're operating from a full cup. You're doing these quarterly relationship resets, right? Where you're just together. And I'm not saying that you can't talk about business. Like, we love talking shop. We did this special private dinner for my birthday, and we talk shop most of the night because that's what we like to do. But just time for you, so that you're not just caught up in running the business and trading notes. I think, have a strong relationship foundation, then you can thrive and serve your team.
Yeah. And maybe I heard you kind of hint towards this, that I know you guys host different types of events. Do you guys have something that's specific for that kind of couplepreneur as well?
We actually do. Yeah. So I'm really excited. This summer, actually, we're hosting a marriage retreat for couples. They don't have to be couples in business, but we find a lot of people who want to come are. So yeah, if that's you, reach out. You can literally just drop us a DM, because we haven't put this out publicly yet. But this summer we're doing a retreat for couples, and I think we'll be doing more of that.
Yeah, love it. You guys are doing so many kind of cool, unique things out there. This has been really fun, Tori. I really hope that we do get to see you out at Red Rocks. We'll definitely be coming out there to the Bolt Farm to check out this project. It's been on my bucket list. So what an honor to have you in. Anything else that you would like to share that we missed, or any other place that you want to point our audience to connect with you?
Thank you. No, you can connect with us. Our website is boltfarmtreehouse.com. On Instagram, Bolt Farm Treehouse, or on Bolt Farm Treehouse, no matter what platform you like, that's where you can connect. And since you offered, if you're listening to this and you know someone who is a top performer, someone who loves their craft, and they're looking for their home, their team, like, I want to see them. I want to connect with them. We're building that championship team, and that's really what lights me up. So we're always looking for that. And so just check out our careers page if that's you or someone you know.
Love it. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.